But why?
Hongqi.
So hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and once again I have with me here the 2024 Hongqi E-QM5. So you're wondering, why am I featuring this car again since I've driven this almost a year ago now? Hongqi Philippines gave me a lend out for this for a couple of days now, and I learned a lot more and enjoyed the hell out of this car, to be honest. And special thanks here again to Hongqi VGC for making this shoot possible. This review will be a little bit different, so I'm talking now what it's like owning an EV for a couple of days now, since the first time I drove last year was just a quick test drive review. So like all Hongqis, you still get the red banner logo that stretches almost all the way here to the grills. There's no holes here up front whatsoever. Everything's just chromed out over here. You get a gun clearance at a very low 115 millimeters. But in the time I've had this for a couple of days now, I've never totally scraped anything. However, once it's only fully loaded, that's where you might tend to scrape the middle, not the one here at front at least. You get LED lights all around. This is your main headlamp just down below. This can be replaced too with indicators once you indicate left or right or make it hazard. I wish here too this whole piece was an LED light too, because this E-QM5 is one of the most unique looking EVs/sedans you can buy out here today. Powering this E-QM5 is a 55 kilowatt-hour battery that produces the same 134 horsepower. But having driven this for a couple of days now, I said in my first test drive review of this that this has around 118 Newton meters of torque. Well, technically, there's no official figures given by Hongqi themselves, but having given it a better feel now, I think this produces around 200 Newton meters of torque, and 0 to 60 kilometers per hour is done in 5.5 seconds, but 0 to 100 kilometers per hour is probably done in less than 9 seconds. I can guarantee you that. And the power of this, even though it's not one of the most powerful EVs you can buy out there, but it's still very, very brisk nevertheless. So here on the side of this E-QM5, I've never realized too, the first time I drove it, how big this thing is. The underpinnings of this chair is the same too, like that of the Hongqi H5. I did a separate review of that, which in turn too is the same like that of the Mazda 6/GJ Atenza, which means this is a compact EV luxury sedan. As well, this makes this one of the larger EVs or sedans in general that you can buy under 2 million pesos. And there's a lot more chrome here on the side too. This rear part is just a little bit weird for me. I wish it all the way here on the back kind of gives it a floating roof design. 18-inch wheels come as standard too. And I don't talk about suspensions that much, but I'm willing to give this an exception later on during the test drive, because this has MacPherson strut suspensions up front, and here at the rear you get multi-link suspension to give it a more comfortable ride. And like what I said too in my first test drive review, there's another fuel filler cap here on the right side. It's a completely blank space, but hopefully Hongqi 2 will update this soon for this to be available with slow charging. So here now at the rear of this E-QM5, my favorite part here is definitely the very long, crystal clear LED taillights. You get rear fog lamps too, weirdly not the ones in front. A bit odd. Anyways, you get the usual Hongqi badges here on the tailgate itself. But the time I've had this car, I've noticed, yes, you may have a reverse camera, but I've not seen sensors at all. So that's a bit of an odd match there. Anyways, another party piece too with this E-QM5. So this does not have an electronic tailgate, but it's the first time I've seen in a sedan, you get gas struts rather than a spring here once you open the tailgate. I mean, closing and opening, it's very smooth nevertheless. So again, another plus point for Hongqi. And the total space here is as well one of the bigger ones you can get. This is at 433 liters, which rivals to like that with European brands. And you can fit a lot of stuff here, even full-size umbrellas, even though you place them horizontally or vertically. And you have a halogen light here too on the left. Underneath, you only get a tire repair kit. No spare tire here for this E-QM5, sadly. So that's about it with the underpinnings and the roof of this E-QM5. Let's check out once again the interior. Now this is the interior of the E-QM5. Here in the door card, well actually all doors, the opening is really wide, and there's this nice texture bronze and black effects on either side of the door handle. And what I noticed too throughout the Adrian 1011 and Julian Tumpit are here with me today. So check out their POVs part 2 reviews of this E-QM5. So back here, all doors have wide openings, as I said, and very unique. This is the only car that I know so far. Once you lock the vehicle, then as well go down the vehicle. On my driver's side, you have to open it twice, right? You can do that too with all doors, which is actually pretty handy, I must say. So the look here, fit and finish is actually really good at this price point. And remember, this is the entry level of the Hongqi lineup here in the Philippines. It is still very good, I have to say. So here on the left side, you get your boot release button, headlight leveler adjustment, and for turning off the car. And to how to turn on the car, it's like with most EVs now, you have to press the brake as long as you have the key with you, and it will just simply start. To turn it off though, it's a weird mix because it took me 5 minutes since I wasn't briefed on how to turn this E-QM5 off. You have to press the key twice or with this button here, as I mentioned here on the left side. And one of the more unique EVs too, besides the looks, of course, this is the only one that I know of so far that has an analog setup for the instrument cluster and for your power meter. I mean, I'm only nitpicking because most of the EVs now, example like with this EHS9, they're all digital now. But for this, I don't mind it whatsoever. I've got a lot of comments too with people who've ridden here. There's that the design of this really looks like a Ferris wheel. I will agree with them. And the power meter, I kind of like it too because it seems to be a bit more accurate than that of digital clusters. So that's just my 2 cents only. And in the middle, you get a TFT display that displays all of your important information only, like for your TPMS, alarm notifications, and your kilowatt hour consumptions only. That's as basic as you can get, and as well you can see your battery level and your range too. Steering wheel, okay, it's pretty alright too, but not bad for a base model Hongqi because you still get buttons here for your DVR phone connectivity functions, and on the right side for the channels in the radio or for your Bluetooth functions, and again adjustments for the instrument cluster. This is equipped with a 10-inch infotainment system too that sadly does not have either Apple CarPlay or Android Auto and Bluetooth mirroring. So yeah, I'm a little bit annoyed with that, just being honest, but the Bluetooth is just alright for me because there's speakers at least. Why I mentioned radio too, because I found here on the right side there's a radio button but it's not activating whatsoever, which I find very weird. So 2 more driving settings over here, so just a little bit of safety features too. So an F1 reference like what I mentioned too in my previous review. You have your kinetic energy recovery system, aka for your brake regeneration to charge the batteries again. So you have low, medium, and high. At high modes, it feels like more of level 2 like with some other electric cars out there, but it's still very useful, like example in heavy city traffic. For medium, it's perfect for what runs on the highways, S-Lex and N-Lex. Stay tuned for that bit. So further down below, air conditioning vents, you get a cubby space here, and another one here too in the floating center console. One thing I need to address though, there is no glove box whatsoever, which I find really annoying since this car was made to hold passengers in the first place. I mean, if all the necessities are there at the rear anyway. Back here, you get a cubby space, a USB port, and a 12-volt socket. My tumbler only fits down there, none in the door cards here up front and at the rear center console too. You have your gear shift, electronic parking brake, and your hazard button. Yes, everything here is gloss black, but you won't be touching most of it anyway, so I'm cool with that. And here's center console box, again with the Hongqi logo. Okay, it's pretty decent. There's a felt material, but remember, this does not have a glove box whatsoever. So all of the manuals and paperwork are stored underneath here, which I find really annoying. And then above here, you get halogen lights, sunglasses holder, visor. You have vanity mirrors too on either side. Don't extend. Yeah, sadly, don't mind that whatsoever. And the seats here too are really unique. This is the only color spec you can get. It's a 2-tone layout, brown and black layout. But as you notice in this shot, I get manual adjustments for my driver's seat only, but you at least you get height adjustments. But for the right front passenger seat, you get electronic adjustments. Again, no height adjustment. So yeah, that's about here in front. So let's go where Adrian is, at the back, at the rear seats. So this is the rear of the E-QM5. So here in the door card, yet again you have the wide opening, but no cubby spaces. Cup holders are present in the door cards itself. But the highlight of this E-QM5 is the space. Just look at this. I can stretch my feet all the way forward without my feet hitting the front seat and headroom. Okay, so I forgive this because this is a sedan anyways, and I have enough space to swim too. And I discovered too just this morning when I got this car. Yep, I can literally stand here halfway up. That's amazing. So no joke, I even asked my friends who own Euros and have experience with European cars rather too, that this is more spacious than a Toyota Camry, and this is just as spacious as a Lexus ES and a BMW 7 Series. I mean, I've ridden the new 7 Series. I will agree with them. This is such an amazing thing here with this EQM5, given this price point yet again. And speaking of BMW 7 Series, I just parked beside one. It's almost as big too. This EQM5 does have the placebo effect of being a sedan. It's a small vehicle. Not this specific car. Yeah, I am so stunned with the size and again the space of this. So you get two map pockets behind both front seats, and in the middle you get two air conditioning vents, two USB ports, a 12-volt socket, and another party piece too, which my family loved, by the way. Shout out to all of them. We fit here, all 5 of us here at the back, pretty easily. There's air conditioning vents too for your feet, and the seats here overall pretty much the same too, but this time it's all brown, no two-tone effect anywhere like with the front seats, and keeps you in check too, in place. And another party piece too, you have a center armrest too. But before that, since as I mentioned, this being based on a combustion engine vehicle, this has a very weak transmission tunnel, so I don't mind it whatsoever. Sitting here in the middle, as said only by my sister and mother, it's a little bit harder than usual because of this central armrest, so it's just perfect for long journeys only. I mean, I kinda agree with them, but the cushions for your butts at least is just as soft as either the left or right side. So another party piece here, since this EQM5 was designed to hold people around. There you go. There's no screens here, comparing like only that with the larger H9. You get two pop-out cup holders here, cubby space, and then open this up. You have more compartments inside. This setup is literally perfect for dinner. Like my sister invaded this with all of her McDonald's. Yes. And another party piece too, like what I mentioned in my previous review of this EQM5. There's just a little spring here, so you don't have to force this all the way up, and you will just put it back by itself. Although what my family did love here at the rear too, you have ambient lights here just above, along to with two halogen lights and a microphone. I'm not sure if that even works here, but at least the mood light keeps everyone relaxed here at the rear. But I just wish, just a small nitpick, you can just change the colors. And another thing I noticed too, there's a recess here on the ceiling. I mean, yes, you have a lot more headroom compared to like the ones in front, but I think in other markets you can avail this with a sunroof. So that was the first thing my family were looking for in this EQM5. So yep, highlight of this EQM5 is definitely the space. But let's talk about more now, the driving of this and my charging experience. Now driving once again the Hongqi E-QM5. So it's very refreshing that I'm driving an electric vehicle that's not a crossover or an SUV. Having driven this a lot more now than usual, there's a lot to like about this EQM5. I mean, here's one. Right, being an EV vehicle, you get torque instantly, so apologies all of the stuff flying. Right, the torque is instant. That's pretty much given with all electric vehicles. So a bit unique too with this EQM5. It may not be the most powerful EV out there, however, there's still a lot of pep with this electric sedan. What impressed me the most with this EQM5 is definitely, besides the space, which I keep praising of course, is the ride and NVH. I mean, I know we're just driving slow speeds, but having driven this in S-Lex, this is actually one of the best ones I've ever encountered in any Chinese vehicle. The ride is supple, it's very stable, not much tire noise going into the cabin, even though you're driving already at higher speeds already. And that's thanks in largely too because of the door-mounted side mirrors with repeaters too, let's not forget. And before I forget, since there's black parts too around in the side mirrors, I've never discovered this too in my first test drive review of this. You get a blacked out roof too with a shark fin antenna. As I mentioned, this rides on a rear multi-link suspension setup. That means the ride of this, even though you're holding a lot of people, well, 3 per se, this goes over them with this. It's one of the more comfortable Chinese cars in general too that I've driven. I mean, here, like manholes, you don't feel it throughout here in the cabin. Yes, the suspension may be on the softer side of things, but this is perfect for city driving if you're not acting this like a race car, unlike me. But I mean, if you can want this to act like a race car, this E-QM5 will just do. Blind spot, not much, even though this is a very long vehicle. As I mentioned, driving this is somewhat easy, but you have to watch out for the length, the width of this. Hence, this is much bigger than, as I mentioned, than that of the Toyota Camry. And then here, U-turn test. Okay, yeah, this is one issue I found with this E-QM5. The turning circle of this is really, really long. But of course, if you're holding people up when they get out, just fly like that. Right, so I remember in my first test drive of this E-QM5, I've never floored it that much because it was a first time for me. And being an EV, you will tend to skid these tires quite a lot. And I finally able to achieve that with this. Remember, 200 Newton meters does not sound much, but given this is an electric vehicle, this will fly, like literally fly. Despite the lightness too of the steering wheel, the rack is surprisingly pretty big. There's no dead spot whatsoever. This is a unique too with this E-QM5. Most EVs are, I'll be honest, that steering wheel is too light, it's numb, and it's lazy. But this E-QM5, it has a little bit of sportiness to it. I quite like that. One thing I never talked about during my first drive of this E-QM5 was its highway driving, and finally got to drive in S-Lex and a bit part of NLEX off camera only. This is really subtle and quiet. Again, as I mentioned, one of the best NVH in any Chinese vehicle I tried out so far. And overtaking this on the highway, it's pretty nippy. Okay, it won't be as extreme like with other EVs out there, but it still gets the job done. And another thing I've never talked about with this E-QM5, and the main talking point of not just this car, with EVs in general too, is the charging times. Well, charging this car in general. I finally did this for the first time ever, and of course, having only the DC charging port available, there's no AC slow charger for this sadly, so you cannot charge it like in the SM malls or the uptown here in BGC because the port does not fit whatsoever. However, the only place where you can charge this, sorry for the sun, there you go, is at Eco Oil, where I charge to the WMW5, where Evo Xterra handled both of these brands too at the moment. When I got this car, I had like 79 or 71% of charge and around 228 kilometers. I forgot to take picture of that, sorry. But when I arrived there, I drove it the whole day, I took it to the highway, so on and so forth. I already had 34 or 35% of battery and 99 kilometers of range. So when I charged it, it took quite a while since, again, this is a Type 2 charger. I was only allowed to charge at the 20 kilowatt charging station. So it took me quite a while to charge this car from 34% to 79%. It was like 1 hour and 14 minutes. But given that, wait, excuse me first. Okay, back to the charging. It gave me an additional 225 kilometers. So I had now 323 kilometers. And the cost for all of it, 786 pesos. Which is actually much cheaper than regular ICE combustion vehicles. Okay, yes, the timing might be a little bit of an issue. I just wish you can do a 60 kilowatt or even faster like Evo Xterra, who supply these vehicles here in the Philippines. So yeah, I hope to test those out. Having charged this for the first time on my own with this car, I mean, it's a memorable experience. So I kinda understand all the pros and cons of owning an electric vehicle. But again, as I mentioned in the showroom, hopefully they'll update this with the slow charging port, so you can charge this in any mall, like example here in all the SMs, here at Uptown BGC and whatnot. So this will be the ideal electric car for you. For the cost of all of this one stands at 1,780,000 pesos. Okay, yes, you have a lot of missing features, but then again, this car was designed and in tune for paying a lot of people. Remember, this is ride-hailing car in China themselves. So all of my passengers, even my friend here, Lance, from Car Spotting Group, yeah, they love this car. I mean, being driven in it or even driving here behind the wheel, I really love this. And what you're paying for, besides of course the brand, the luxuriousness of this vehicle, is definitely the space in the back. It's one of the most spacious sedans you can buy out here today. For the space of this, usually it will cost you like an arm and a leg, but not for this Hongqi E-QM5. So yeah, that concludes my full test drive review of this E-QM5. So I'd like to thank Hongqi Philippines for having me lend out of this for a couple of days. Special thanks to Hongqi BGC for allowing me to shoot there once again, and to Lance, to Aiden1011, and to Julian Dumpit for assisting me here in this test drive. And as well, check out their POV reviews and pictures. I'll put all of the links in the description down below. So hope you guys like and subscribe, and I will see you hopefully in the future with more luxury vehicles and more Hongqi vehicles. Bye bye.